Long before the sun claimed the sky each morning, before the rivers carved valleys and the hills whispered their secrets, there was a village named Nnokwa. Nestled at the edge of a vast, ancient forest, Nnokwa was a place of life, laughter, and caution. The elders spoke in hushed tones about the forest beyond the stone boundary markers, warning all who would listen. The forest is alive. It sees, it remembers. Respect it and it will grant you gifts. Disobey and it will take what you hold dear. It was in this village that Kobina was born, the only son of Ebo, a modest hunter, and Amma, a skilled weaver. From the moment he could walk, Kobina displayed a curiosity that was both admired and feared. While other children played near the village square, Kobina would wander to the forest edge, staring at the dense foliage as if expecting it to speak. His parents warned him. "The forest is not for children," Amma would say, tightening her woven apron strings. "One day it will take more than your eyes can see." But Kobina's eyes were always wide with wonder. He listened to the wind rustle through the trees, he watched how birds disappeared into hidden branches, and he imagined the secrets of the creatures that called the forest home. As he grew, his skills became apparent. By the age of 10, he could track small game through thorn and thicket, read the patterns of bird flight, and understand the calls of the forest creatures. By 15, he accompanied his father on hunts, mastering the bow and spear with a precision that left the elders murmuring in approval. Yet Kobina was not only skillful, he was clever. He could outwit the cleverest monkeys, anticipate the movement of wary antelope, and sometimes, just sometimes, avoid the subtle snares set by the forest itself. Nnokwa was not merely a village. It was a tapestry of families, trades, and traditions. Farmers tilled the soil with patience, weavers created cloths dyed with the colors of the earth, and hunters like Kobina's father kept everyone fed. Stories of the ancestors were told around the evening fire, often ending with a caution. Greed invites ruin. The forest remembers. Kobina grew respected among the villagers, but with respect came envy. Other young hunters, unable to match his skill, whispered behind his back, claiming his talents were too sharp, his pride too high. Kobina ignored them, focusing instead on mastering his craft and providing for his family. The elders watched him with wary eyes. Elder Nnokwa, the oldest in Nnokwa, recognized a spark in Kobina, one that could light the village or burn it entirely. In secret, Nnokwa often followed Kobina's progress, observing how the boy approached the forest, noting the respect he showed, and sometimes worrying over the ambition that danced in his eyes. As Kobina's skill grew, so did his desire for recognition. The villagers celebrated his victories, lauding the quantity of meat he brought and the clever ways he trapped elusive game. But Kobina began to notice the power that admiration carried. People listened when he spoke. Children ran to watch him demonstrate his hunts. Even the village council sought his opinion on matters they would have otherwise dismissed. This recognition, while flattering, planted the first seeds of pride. And pride, if left unchecked, can grow roots deeper than the tallest forest tree. At first, it was subtle. Kobina kept to the advice of his parents and the elders, never venturing past the marked boundaries of the forest. But at night, when the village slept, he dreamed of hidden places, of treasures untold, of wealth and power beyond the simple life he knew. One morning, the village elders gathered the people at the square. The air was thick with the smell of burning herbs, meant to cleanse and protect. Elder Nnokwa raised his staff and addressed the villagers. "The forest watches us more closely than ever. Strange signs have appeared. Birds migrate in patterns we do not understand. Trees have shifted their roots. The spirits murmur in dreams. Beware of those who would tempt them with greed." The villagers murmured, exchanging uneasy glances. Kobina listened, his heart racing, not with fear but with excitement. After the gathering, Nnokwa pulled him aside. "Kobina," he said quietly, "you are gifted, but gifts come with danger. Respect the forest, or it will take what you hold most dear." Kobina nodded politely, masking the curiosity and desire swelling within him. The months passed after Elder Nnokwa's warning, yet Kobina could not shake the pull of the forest. Every morning, he woke to the songs of birds weaving through the village. every evening, the whispers of the trees at the forest's edge tugged at his imagination. It was during the late dry season that Kobina's destiny began to take shape. The earth was cracked and parched, rivers shrank into shallow streams, and the village's granaries ran low. Even the elders' calm council could not hide the growing tension. Families worried about survival. Hunters struggled to find enough game, and traders passing through Nnokwa brought tales of distant villages flourishing while Nnokwa struggled. For Kobina, the scarcity sharpened his resolve. Perhaps the forest itself could provide, he thought. Perhaps it holds what others cannot reach. One dawn, he set out with his bow and quiver, moving past the familiar hunting grounds toward a part of the forest he had never dared to enter. The air changed as he walked deeper. It grew cooler, heavier, almost tangible, like a living presence pressing against his chest. Birds fell silent. The wind whispered through the leaves in patterns he could not comprehend. After hours of careful tracking, Kobina noticed a narrow path between two ancient trees. The bark was dark and glistening, twisted in patterns resembling eyes. The elder's warning echoed in his mind, but he stepped forward anyway, driven by curiosity and an unspoken ambition. The path twisted and wound, leading him through dense undergrowth until he arrived at a clearing unlike any he had ever seen. At the center stood a massive tree, its trunk wider than any hut in Nnokwa, its leaves shimmering with a faint golden light. Beneath its roots lay treasures scattered across the earth, bracelets of pure gold, carved ivory, calabashes filled with cowries, rare herbs, and strange artifacts whose origins he could not imagine. Kobina froze. His heart pounded in awe and fear. A soft voice echoed, not aloud but in his mind. "Take only what you need." Returning to Nnokwa, Kobina sold the bracelet to a traveling trader. The wealth he gained was immediate and transformative. His household flourished. Amma's weaving became famous, sold to traders far beyond the village. His younger siblings ate well and wore fine cloth. And Kobina, once respected for skill alone, was now admired for wealth and cleverness. Yet the forest's voice lingered in his mind, gentle but firm. "Take only what you need." He nodded, telling himself he would obey. After all, he had taken only enough to help his family survive. News of Kobina's sudden prosperity spread quickly. Neighbors murmured in admiration and envy. Some speculated on the source of his wealth, but none dared question him openly. Even the elders noticed the change. Elder Nyamkai's brow furrowed as he watched Kobina walk through the village square, his head held high, wealth clinking softly at his waist. "The forest has blessed him," the elders whispered among themselves, but deeper within, a sense of unease grew. They remembered the warnings, the signs that the spirits were patient yet watchful. And Kobina, ambitious and clever, had already begun to test the boundaries of those warnings. The weeks passed. Kobina returned to the forest several times, each time taking slightly more than before. A second bracelet, a carved ivory figurine, a pouch of rare herbs. Each time he remembered the forest's command, "Take only what you need." And each time he convinced himself that he was still obeying. After all, his family and village benefited. The forest remained silent. The birds did not scatter. The trees did not tremble. Kobina laughed quietly to himself. The spirits are stories. The forest rewards those who are clever enough to find its gifts. But the forest is patient, very patient. And patience, when tested by greed, often gives way to fury. The weeks following Kobina's discovery of the forest treasures brought unprecedented wealth and admiration. His household gleamed with prosperity. Amma's weaving attracted traders from distant villages, and his younger siblings were clothed in vibrant fabrics, fed with meat-rich meals, and praised for their cleverness. Yet Kobina himself was changing. Pride had taken root, and with it an insatiable hunger. What had begun as careful respect for the forest's rules now morphed into daring temptation. He convinced himself repeatedly, "I take only what is needed. I am not greedy." But deep inside, he knew the truth. He craved more than survival, more than provision. He craved power, recognition, and the thrill of possessing what others could not even imagine. The forest began to respond. Animals he tracked vanished inexplicably. The antelope he had marked for hunting disappeared from its usual grazing fields. Birds migrated unusually early. Sometimes, when Kobina slept, he dreamed of glowing eyes watching him, of whispers curling around his name in tongues he could not understand. The villagers grew fearful. Traders who had passed through Nnokwa months ago returned, recounting tales of misfortune that seemed to follow Kobina. Livestock died unexpectedly. Rivers near the forest edge began to dry inexplicably. At the next village council, Elder Naimkai spoke with solemnity. The forest stirs. Whoever tempts it beyond measure brings peril to all. Kobina, you stand at the threshold. Turn back while you may. Kobina, now intoxicated by power and pride, stood tall. I have brought nothing but abundance, he said. I have helped the village. The forest rewards those who are worthy, and I am worthy. The night following this council, Kobina returned to the clearing once more. The forest seemed alive in a way it had never been. Leaves shimmered with an otherworldly glow, roots twitched like serpents, and shadows danced in unnatural patterns. Suddenly, the ground trembled beneath his feet. The massive tree at the center of the clearing pulsed with golden light. The whisper became a roar, echoing in his mind and through the forest. You have taken beyond need. You have disobeyed. You have challenged the spirits. Kobina froze. The treasures in his hands seemed heavier, pulsating with energy he could not control. Kobina stood frozen as shadows swirled around him. Their eyes glowed like embers, and their forms shifted constantly, sometimes human, sometimes animal, always immense. You have taken beyond need. You have disobeyed. You have challenged the spirits. Now face the consequence. Kobina dropped to his knees. Please, I meant only to help my family, my village. But the forest had waited long. The shadows pressed closer, forming walls of darkness that he could not penetrate. Roots uncoiled and coiled around him, lifting him slightly above the ground. Treasures rattled violently, spilling into the air and returning to the tree's base. We do not act out of cruelty, but justice. You have been warned. You have chosen defiance. The forest reclaims balance. By morning, Kobina stumbled from the forest, empty-handed and humbled. He returned to Nnokwa, carrying nothing but memory and newfound respect. Amma and his siblings rushed to meet him. Kobina's eyes now reflected humility instead of pride. Life returned to harmony. Kobina resumed hunting modestly, teaching others, sharing knowledge, and never again testing the forest. The story of Kobina became legend, passed down for generations as a lesson. Greed blinds wisdom. Respect preserves life. Patience and humility outweigh wealth and power. Even centuries later, children at the forest's edge hear whispers. Take only what you need.